Start. And yeah, once again, I'm very happy to see so many of you here for the session. I'm also very happy to see familiar names and faces. I believe so many experts are here and people working in the agri-food sector that we will during the ideation session, we will have a lot of good insights, and we also hope that you collaborate and also get to know each other because it might be very helpful and also bring potential collaborations and good connections in the industry. But let me start with introducing myself and also introducing the EIT Food as the co-host of this event today. I believe the major part of you have already heard about EIT Food, but for those of you who don't know, the EIT Food is the Europe's leading food innovation initiative, working towards making the food system more sustainable, healthy, and trusted, both by producers and also consumers. For you to have a better picture, and also the EIT Food is the short name for the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, that which main goal is to drive innovation in Europe by supporting entrepreneurs, innovators, and students across Europe to turn their best ideas into reality. And as you can see here, there are several hubs or those initiatives in Europe, starting with the oldest one, which is the EIT Climate Kick, which is working towards accelerating transition to zero carbon economy and supporting entrepreneurs in reaching this goal. As well as EIT Digital and EIT Food that is represented here today, which is working in the agri-food sector, I would say, from farm to fork, on supporting innovation on different parts of the food supply chain. Yeah, I'm also happy to say that both the EIT Climate Kick and the EIT Food are represented in the Baltics and Latvia, and we are basically physically located in the RTU University in the design factory in Kipsala. So it would be so it is also happy. We are happy to meet you on site when it will be possible. Also myself, my name is Alina, and I am the EIT Food Hub in Latvia coordinator. So you all have with the invitation my contacts, so you can reach me and we can discuss the possibilities that EIT Food presents. To give a bit of the insight on how to understand the EIT Food, EIT Food presents itself as the community of key players across the food value chain, including the industry partners, startups, research centers, and universities, all working together to support change and support mainly the innovation and startups. Among those big industry players, there are such big names as the PepsiCo, Danone, like big companies within the sector. Also, research centers and universities, as for example, University of Cambridge, University of Reading, also Warsaw University. And we have a special guest today from the Warsaw University, as well as startups which are making the EIT Food Rising Food Stars Network and also supporting other startups and leading the change. So a few words about the biggest food challenges. So we're today here on the same page that the food industry is facing. And probably, as you know, if you're here, that those are three major big challenges. One is social, environmental, and also entrepreneurial challenges. As we know from the United Nations report that the food sector will need to feed 10 billion people by 2050, and this is a big challenge for the industry. Also, over 2 billion people are currently overweight, while 800 million people are undernourished, and up to 35% of children under 5 globally are stunned, wasted, or overweight, which makes it a big challenge to solve. Environmental challenges are mostly related to the food waste, I'm sorry to say, and realize that 1/3 of food globally is wasted. And this is also the topic of today's session. We will get deeper into the goals related to sustainable consumption and production related to the food waste. And also entrepreneurial challenge. The food sector presents big opportunities for the business, yet there are still there are still room for improvement and growth for young entrepreneurs on how to operate in the food sector. And how does the EIT Food respond to these challenges and accelerate and support the entrepreneurial talents? There are support programs on different levels of idea development, starting from launch stage, when you have just an idea and you need to validate this idea with the market. There are different programs as a food seedbed, food jump starter, as idea competition. You get funding needed to test the idea, mentors to support you during the program. And also at the end, you can compete for the prize fund in order to develop idea further. Also accelerate programs. When you are a young entrepreneur, you have early stage startup, and you need to enter the market, find the right customers. So this is the EIT Food Accelerator Network. This is a very good program from 4 to 6 months, taking into account all the needs during this stage. And also for the grown-ups or those who want to enter European market with already ready product and want to expand internationally, there is the Rising Food Stars Network that is happy to support with that. But besides that, we are organizing different events. We're consulting the policy makers, or also working with the stakeholders on the local market and also on the Baltic market. And one of the activities today is our collaboration, EIT Food collaboration with the Global Goals Jam organizers in Latvia. And I'm very happy that Inga is here today to continue and tell you more about the United Nations Global Goals Jam initiative, and also talk more about the sustainability goals. I believe on the European level, we both United Nations and the Institute of European Institute of Innovation and Technology have very similar goals. This is why this kind of collaboration is great. And also for you to see the opportunities where your business can grow, what targets it could reach, and also applying for the programs, which goals to show or highlight the solution for for what you're working with, it might be very, very valuable. So I hope you stay today with us till the end. Some technical moments. We will have the guest speakers for the first part of this session. And then Kristaps Cirulis will be our moderator and take us into the more collaborative, informal event, ideation lab, where we can all get to know each other, brainstorm on ideas, and also apply some techniques and tools from the Global Goals Jam on how to work with the idea further. So this is the end from me. I am happy to give the floor to Inga.
Hi, everyone. Alina, just give me a thumbs up if you see my screen and everything is working.
Yes, everything is perfect.
And it's in the presentation mode, right?
Yes, but we see your layout of slides.
Okay, now it should be presentation. Perfect. So hi, everyone. My name is Inga, and I am co-organizer of Global Goals Jam event here in Latvia, which is happening in cooperation with RTU, with EIT Food. Thanks, Alina, for introducing. And it's initiative coming from United Nations Development Program. At the same time, AlterLabs, as you can see on the screen, it's a startup. It's a sustainability startup, which is I'm a co-founder of. So I'm really big enthusiast of sustainability and circularity initiatives. So welcome, everyone. It's nice to see you and hello. So we are here for Global Goals Jam. Just let me give you a little bit of introduction what Global Goals Jam is. And later on, my goal for today is to guide you through SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals defined by United Nations. So we make sure that we all are aware and we become an ambassadors of the initiative coming from United Nations, and it will be throughout all of us. So the Global Goals Jam event, it's not just an event, it's a network of cities. It's happening all around the world. It's happening at the same time, more or less the same days. I picked it's already happening for 5 years. More than 7,000 people are already part of the Global Goals Jam society. And my congratulations to you. Now you're a big family. We are all now one big community around the world. So more than 200 countries have been there. So this is just an insight from the last year. We were lucky to have it offsite. So we actually met at the TU Design Fabrica, where we worked on the challenges which we defined last year. So why do we need it? Why do we need Global Goals Jams as such? Because we all know what's happening around the world. We have multiple challenges. We have multiple issues which solve it by oneself. It's impossible to solve it by one discipline. So we need a combination of different disciplines, different mindsets, and only then, through collaboration, through engagement, we can create some positive impact. So we have to create something. We have to design our future now. This is why the Global Goals Jam initiative is also happening in Latvia. We really believe in interdisciplinary teams, and it's you whom we believe in. So we can all boost creativity. We can all collaborate with our crazy ideas and using structure which is applied throughout the world, the design methods, and we can create value which will benefit our future. And we can work towards United Nations SDGs. So what is SDG? I hope that all of you know, at least have heard it one or another way, but My goal for today is to guide you through all 17 of them, just giving you some examples for each of them, just understanding how complex challenges are in front of us and how we actually have all to collaborate to make an impact and to change it. So we have a better future for ourselves and also for our kids. So there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals defined by United Nations. And it all comes for a better world. So first SDG is for no poverty. And just imagine how many humans are living there for $10 a day. How much did you spend on a coffee today? How much did you spend on a nice sandwich or some snack? This is a survival for some people out there. And the question for all of us, globally is how we can make sure that people all around the world have the same living conditions, well living conditions. It's not only about surviving. How we can do that? At the same time, second SDG number 2 is working on the zero hunger agenda. We know now that by 2050, we will have 2 billion hungry people out there. Can you imagine? 1 in 9 people in the world don't have enough food. They go to sleep hungry. And this is a question for all of us to work on, how we can make sure that all around the world we have access to nutrition, we have access to eat, to go to sleep not hungry. SDG number 3 works for good health and well-being, where again, we have devastating statistics that 40% of the world's population lack social protection. And just think about it. When was the last time when we were sure that we have medical support? If we get sick, we can call an ambulance, but this is not the case for such a big percentage around the world. SDG number 4 works for quality education. We have 57 million out there who remain out of school. Just think of the perspective, how many people we have in Latvia in total, and 57 million out there don't have opportunity to go to school. And now with COVID, actually, so many changes are happening that education is getting more and more available for those who have at least internet and they cannot go to school. So we have to have more because we have to provide this education and access to education, and equal education is a key word. SDG number 5 fights gender equality. We see that only 52% of women married or in a union are making their decisions freely. Just imagine that 5 out of 10 women are not making decisions for themselves. And it relates to everything. How do you spend your life? That's not you who decides. How can we make sure that women out there are paid equally and have the same rights that men do? SDG number 6 works on clean water and sanitation. And this is an issue which is projected to rise. People don't have access to the pure and clean water. And ridiculously, there are more people in the world who have access to the phone and they don't have access to the toilet. And they don't have access to the clean water close to their home. How we can guarantee that we provide to people around the world water and accessibility to the sanitation? Number 7 SDG works on affordable and clean energy, where we just have to keep in mind the devastating number that about 60% of total global greenhouse emissions comes from energy, from our energy contributions, and how can we make it accessible and easily accessible locally? SDG number work is about decent work and economic growth, making sure that people are working in a safe environment and available, and job opportunities are available to those who want to work. SDG number 9 is about industry, innovation, and infrastructure, where our biggest challenge is to ensure that we have electricity access to everyone. Just imagine about 2.6 billion people out there in the developing world don't have proper access to electricity full time. SDG number 10 is about reduced inequalities. We cannot exclude any part of the world populations. And unfortunately, inequality is increasing in developing countries. And this is a question for us. This is a challenge for us, how we actually can make sure that everyone has the same chance regarding the education, the work, their health, and their nutrition, to have all the same opportunities as everyone else. SDG number 11 is about sustainable cities and communities, where we have to remember that urban population grows. Every second, urban population grows by 2 people. Just while I'm speaking, there are people coming to the urban areas. And this is a big challenge to making it sustainable. SDG number 12, our focus for today, is about responsible consumption and production. And what we know that current estimate says that by 2050, we're going to have almost 10 billion people out there. And in order to feed all of them in the same way as we are eating now, we need almost 3 planets equivalent to our current planet to sustain the lifestyle that we are used to. Just imagine, just put it into perspective, 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted every year. And it's at the same time when 2 billion people go to sleep hungry. So let's again, let just that sink in. 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted globally. An average European person like you and me creates 700 kilograms of CO2 food waste. Just again, put it into perspective. It's 5,500 of bananas, which we are putting to waste every year, each of us. How we can change it? It's about responsible consumption. It's about responsible production. How we can make sure that this is not happening year after year. 5 to go. Number 13, it's about climate action. And what we see that global sea levels have risen by about 20 centimeters in the last century. How we can work on it to prevent it and actually to prepare that's already happening. Number 14 is about life below water. And this is again what we are doing. As much as 40% of ocean is affected by pollution created by humans. We have depleted fisheries and we are losing coastal habitats. How we can ensure that we have healthy and productive oceans and how we can maintain the biodiversity which we have, not killing the life underwater. Number 15 is about life on land, where we again have to make sure that we have sustainable relationship with natural surroundings. 16, SDG number 16 is about peace, justice, and strong institutions. And just imagine the numbers. 10 million people out there are stateless and they have been denied nationality and they don't have rights. Corruption, bribery in developing countries is estimated to cost more than $1 trillion per year. So the challenge for all of us in all the countries around the world are how we can ensure honest and transparent to everyone, procedures for everyone. And number 17, it's the last, but definitely not the least. It's about partnership for the goals. As I said in the beginning, it's not about doing it by yourself in a single discipline, creating the change. It's about cooperation. How we can create effective partnerships, how we can all progress on SDGs, how we can make change for a better future, for designing 2030 right now. So we have to act and we have to act now. And I'm happy to see that we are gathering here today to discuss the SDG number 12, because this is where we can create a change. This is where we can create an impact here locally and maybe transfer our ideas to the global scale. So the local challenge today will be about sustainable consumption and production patterns, which will be elaborated a little bit further on. And I would like all of you to invite to jamming. So let's do it, let's discuss, let's brainstorm, and let's put all the crazy ideas out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Inga. Maybe, yeah, I would like to remind you that if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in chat or raise hand and ask the question. So we are semi-formal here, so it is okay. But while we're waiting our special guest today, and it will be Katarzyna from the Warsaw University of Life Sciences, and she will unfold the SDG 12 in particular and give more insights on the new product development and what aspects should be considered. I would like to ask Andrii from Biocatalyst. Andrii, would you mind to take the floor and share with us some trends in biotechnology and what is done in this field in order to move towards the sustainable goal 12?
Hello, Alina. Hello, everyone.
Hi, we see you and hear you, so it's
perfect. Yeah, I'm out of breath because I was planning on doing this later, but I can do it now as well.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Thanks to EIT Food for inviting me to this event. Just give me a second while I share the screen. All right, can you see the slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm here on behalf of the Biocatalyst Foundation, as is evident through my awesome background today as well. So I thought it would be interesting to take a step back and talk about the new technologies behind the food, the so-called food 2.0 paradigm, which is unfolding as we speak. And it would make probably more sense if I did this afterwards, after the next lecture, but I hope this will be interesting in the vacuum as well. Sorry, just a second. I think this is the wrong presentation. Yes, this is the one. Anyways, the slide is almost the same, but the other ones are different. So let's get to it. First of all, just a couple of words about the Biocatalyst Foundation, of which yours truly is one of the founders. We are an independent non-profit foundation registered in Riga and Latvia, with the goal of boosting biotechnology innovation across the Baltic states and beyond. And we do that by creating meaningful connections between all the relevant stakeholders, including industry, academia, capital, talent, and of course, policymakers. I myself am from Tallinn originally. Now I'm based in Riga as well. So our team we have quite a few people like that. So we're an international bunch. And our main portfolio of events consists of things like a Symbio conference that we're planning to organize in Riga, the Innovation Lab program for emerging talent, the incubator for turning teams into viable startups, as well as something that we call the Baltic Biotech Report, which is a piece of analytics about the state of the biotechnology in the Baltic states, coming out early November. So anyone who is interested can also sign up for updates on our website, biocatalyst.eu. But enough of the plugs. Let's talk food and biotechnology. And in the next 10 minutes, I will try to cover the new technologies underpinning the so-called biorevolution, and how these technologies can help us solve the sustainable development goals and achieve better growth for the entire planet. Sounds lofty, but it's true. So let's get to it. When you think about polluting industries or archaic industries, something that comes to mind is probably coal mining or old cars which emit a lot of exhaust gases, or maybe concrete production for the building environment, for the building sector. But rarely do you think of something like this. The food industry is actually one of the biggest polluters and one of the biggest resource users in our economy. And to make that point, I got to show you a couple of graphs instead of talking too much, and you'll see for yourself. So first of all, let's start with land use. Here you can see the breakdown of the Earth's surface into the land that can be inhabited, and half of it is used for agriculture, whereas the people live on 1% of the land. So we use 50% of the habitable land to feed the 1% of the land, which boggles the mind, at least for me. Then the greenhouse gas emissions. The sector is responsible for around 25–30% of all greenhouse gas emissions, and it's by far the largest emitter in terms of non-CO2 greenhouse gases, mostly methane, which is far more dangerous in the long term than CO2. If we speak about the animal sector, which is the more resource intensive among the agricultural sectors, here you can see the amount of animals that are being raised and killed each year for food. And the total number, as I found out quite recently, is 77 billion per year. So that's 10 times the world population is slaughtered for feeding the population. And the word uncountable fish and sea animals is actually a citation. So the World Economic Forum says that it just cannot be counted. That's so many species and so many animals that it's not even worth trying to calculate how many billion of them die every year to feed us. And when you think about, I will not show you a photo of a slaughterhouse with corpses, but this, I think, illustrates the point about the animals ending their lives to become someone's own food. Lastly, but not least, I will not touch upon the greenhouse gas emissions and water use. If you are curious about that, you can also hit me up in the chat. But one more thing I wanted to mention in view of the latest developments in the Baltic states, especially, is the zoonotic diseases, which are the illnesses which come from animals to humans. And domestic animals are one of the most important parts in this kind of system of circulation of viruses. They provide spillovers from wild animals and from other organisms like insects. So this is a huge challenge, and most of the new diseases that humanity is discovering right now originates from animals, and the domestic animals are the subsystem which helps propagate this vicious cycle. So I wouldn't be ranting about this if our population would be stable or declining, but as you can probably imagine, we're still far we're still far behind the actual limit of number of people that we're going to get on Earth. And on the left graph, you can see the projections. So it's 11 billion people is the peak humans around the end of this century. And I think the right graph is interesting in the sense that it illustrates that much more people of those 11 billion people will be educated, they will be richer, they will have higher demands, and richer people want better food. They want to eat more meat and more proteins that are tasty. And that translates into more agriculture and more strain on the Earth's ecosystems, which are already breaking at the seams. Inga mentioned 3 Earths to feed the population if everybody would live the same as the average humans. Well, if everybody on Earth would live as Americans, then we'll need 5 Earths just to feed the current population, not to speak about the extra 3-4 billion which are going to add to our population in this century. So what are the key technologies that hold the promise of actually turning things around and making food production and consumption more sustainable in the long run, not just in the next decades? Before we speak about that, maybe just a short reminder of what food actually is. So on the most basic of foundations, food consists of the so-called macronutrients, which are the building blocks of almost everything that we eat. And those are carbohydrates or sugars, proteins, and fats. Those are the 3 building blocks. You can also add the vitamins and micro elements, etc. But those are a really small part of our diet by volume or by weight or however you count. The interesting part about the hierarchy of the nutrients is that the most resource intensive of the 3 is of course proteins, which are contained in meat and other protein sources that come from plants, which are also much more resource, water, and energy intensive than the rest of the macronutrients. The interesting thing about proteins from the biological perspective is that they are the ones that are coded directly in the DNA, the source code of life, so to speak, poetically. They are transcribed through the RNA and then translated into proteins as a sequence of amino acids. So you can feel from this slide, when I speak about proteins, that it sounds a little too much like engineering. So there's the word code, there's the word transcription, and this gives you a hint of what's to come next. The so-called second domestication of animals is how they call it, and the essence of this revolution, I would dare say, that's unfolding right now, is that we are learning to engineer the DNA so as to make a transition from microorganisms like cows and pigs and chickens to microorganisms for producing our main nutrients, proteins. And this is enabled by the fact that we can program the DNA to produce any kind of protein that we want, not just the proteins that bacteria and fungi and algae produce naturally, but any protein we can think of, from proteins that are contained in cow's milk to proteins that are contained in human milk, so and to proteins that are contained in anything that we can find in nature and beyond that. To see how that could turn out, we first need to look at the status quo. For me, it's always a nice illustration of the degree of efficiency of the current system is the cow, which, if you view it as a production system, it takes in grass, so nutrients, and it excretes some leftovers, and then it produces some meat and milk, so which are the useful products. And the ratio of useful products to the feedstock is just 4% over the lifetime of the cow. In any industry, if you say that something is 4% efficient, then probably people will ask you, can we do better with that? And as a matter of fact, yes, we can, and we're already trying. So the key technology here to note here is precision fermentation, which is where we, as I mentioned, we program microbes to produce specific nutrients like proteins in a controlled and closed environment. So there is no meadow, there is no pasture, there's no manure, there's no cow burps and farts. It's a sterile fermentation tank, just like you can see in a plant that's producing, let's say, yogurt or beer or anything else that comes from traditional fermentation. The only difference with traditional fermentation is that in this case, we don't just take a natural organism, but we tweak the DNA of the organism to produce the proteins that we want. For example, milk proteins, and we get milk which is indistinguishable from cow milk by any measure you can take. It's as nutritious, it's as tasty, but it involves no cows. And here's a comparison. You can see that we can improve the capacity. We can really cut down the time required. We can make it about 10-20 times more efficient. And of course, it will use much less land and produce much less emissions because it's a closed cycle and it happens in a vertical tank instead of a flat surface. The second key technology that I would like to point out here is the so-called cell cultures or tissue cultures. This is when we take a biopsy of a real animal. So let's say it's a pig. We take a sample of its tissue without killing it, of course, and then we establish a cell bank from which we can grow the cells again in a controlled environment, and then we can basically 3D print anything we want out of those cells. For example, meat. So what we get in the end is a piece of meat that's completely identical by its nutritional value and structure to animal meat, again without killing or even involving any animals in the process. The third technology that's important to note here is so-called metabolic engineering, or as some people like to call it, the science of abundance. This is when the cells are optimized to produce any other type of nutrient apart from proteins. So when you think of proteins, they come directly from DNA. When you think of other nutrients, they come from the metabolic processes, which are usually multi-step processes inside the cell. So we can tweak those processes in fashion that suits us and produce any type of end product. For example, the thing that you see here in those vats is actually palm oil. It has been produced from microorganisms without chopping down any palm trees, without chopping down any jungle, which I think is a really cool way of solving some of the pressing issues of today. Let's have a closer look at what the so-called food 2.0 can bring us using the synthetic biology. First of all, before we do that, you might have a question of why now? And the answer is simple. There are a couple of technologies, there are a number of technologies that are converging right now, meaning that the cost of those technologies is declining exponentially. And the key ones are, of course, computing and data, and genome reading and writing. So on this graph, you can see the trajectories, and note that the vertical axis is logarithmic. That means that those are powers of 10. So if you translate that into linear axis, that would be a precipitous decline in costs. And as the costs decline, it becomes more economical to do things that we haven't been able to do before. This is an example with precision fermentation taken from our friends at RethinkX think tank based in London. You can see that in the 80s, the precision fermentation technologies were only really usable in pharmaceuticals. So a lot of stuff that pharmaceuticals use right now, starting from human insulin and ending with a lot of other proteins, is actually produced by precision fermentation for a number of decades. So this has been going on, but in the 2000s, the PF has started to become competitive with production of some other scarce proteins like enzymes. In 2010s, it started to be competitive in cosmetics and materials. Like, for example, this jacket you can see on the picture is made of spider silk protein, which makes it much more durable. And finally, in the 20s, so right now, the cost of the precision fermentation technology is becoming competitive in the food industry. So this is the key to most of what's happening right now in the industry. And the disruption is, of course, happening from all directions, but the main course is, so to speak, bottom up. So we start with ingredients, and we start with foods that are easy to imitate, so to speak. The easiest example is milk. So cow milk contains about 3% of proteins by mass and fats, and the rest is just water. So to emulate milk without the cow, you just need to produce those 3%, and the rest is just liquid. So what's happening right now is that there are a number of startups that are doing just that, and there are already products that I'll show you that involve milk without ever involving the cow. As I said, this is happening right now. So on the right, you can see, to illustrate that, you can see the funding flows for synthetic biology in the food sector. This is in billions of dollars, in billions of euro. And on the left, it is a small article from New York Times about the Singaporean government officials approving lab-grown meat product for the first time in the world. This is December last year, and it's cultured chicken from a US startup. So things are happening. More countries are going to follow suit, I'm sure. And in the near future, that could dramatically change how we look at food, how we produce food, how we consume food, and how we treat food as a resource to feed the humanity. First of all, there are three trends I'd like to cover here. The first one is decentralization. So right now, there are regions of the world which specialize in producing specific foods because of the climate, the terrain, the capabilities, and so on. As you can imagine, with precision fermentation and cell cultures, it really doesn't matter where you do that in the world. You can do that in America, you can do that in Riga, you can do that in Shenzhen, or even in Antarctica. And the number of startups that you can see here, those are the ones who are just the biggest ones connected with cultured meat. So this sector is exploding, and more companies are added to the market every year. So this is definitely happening, and this is coming to the market sooner than most people think. The second trend in food production is the unbinding of the different properties of food. For example, taste and the structure of food. And so these are the pictures of the ice cream, which is called Brave Robot. It's made from cow-free milk, and it has a variety of different flavors. And none of them involved milking any cows, but I haven't tried it yet personally. I'm looking forward to it, but the people who did, they say that it's just as good or even better than Baskin-Robbins or Ben & Jerry's. And the final trend is the incorporation of health consideration and, of course, ethical consideration in food design. By basically just removing animals from the food chain of people, of humans. This allows, first of all, to drastically reduce the number of zoonotic diseases that we can possibly catch from wild animals, as long as we stop eating wild animals as well, of course. And secondly, this allows us not just to engineer food, but why stop there? We can also make food better than in nature. We can make meat, for example, more nutritious and less dangerous for our cardiovascular systems. We can make proteins so healthier than they are in nature. There's really an infinite number of possibilities where this can go, and this is just beginning. To kind of wrap this up, let's look at the UN SDGs and how this strand of biotechnology. So this is only about food biotechnology. I'm not talking about biotechnology in general. And we can definitely say that this helps solve the second point, zero hunger, by providing cheaper and more abundant and healthier food for more population in any part of the world, be it the desert, be it Arctic tundra, or any other type of terrain on any time of year on demand. Good health and well-being, the third SDG. That's easy. This is something that I've mentioned just on the previous slide. sustainable cities and communities, again, making every human settlement more independent in terms of food production, shortening the logistics chains for food supplies is a very important part of how biotechnology is contributing to the SDGs. And of course, 12, the responsible production and consumption goal. This is probably self-evident. So responsible in many ways in the fact that it pollutes less, it uses less resources, it's more ethical, meaning less cruel, etc., etc. Climate action, again, this is an evident one. So the new types of food production use up much less resources, and they produce much less greenhouse gases, and they use up much less water and land. Life below water and life on land. So these are the ecosystems that we're trying desperately to preserve. But if half of the livable land on Earth is covered in pastures, which are used by 1 or 2 species of animals, we can't really speak about biodiversity here. Same with the water bodies. So the new types of technologies that I covered here really help reduce the strain on the land and on the water, and so increase biodiversity and make sure that there's ample room and resources for the wildlife to thrive. I'm going to end with a couple of final words and also a couple of mental exercises that you might think about in the meanwhile, or maybe even today. So the action points are simple. I always think that it's worth educating yourself about biotechnology right now. Example is one good example is the Khan Academy for beginners. So there's a biology course with a very nice set of lectures on gene expression and microbiology in general. This is something akin to me telling you that it's important to start learning to code in the 90s, where some people would be really kind of skeptical and surprised with this recommendation. I'm really, and a lot of people would actually support this viewpoint. I'm really of the opinion that right now is the 90s of the biotechnology. So this is the era of the flat part of the hockey stick growth. We will see amazing things in the next 10 to 20 years. But to get there, we need more people who are aware of the possibilities and who are interested in doing something more and pushing the boundaries. This also pertains to the second point that I might want to make here. This is staying informed about the latest developments, the latest trends on the markets and technologies and consumer opinions and so on. So here you can see some of the sources that are good in my opinion. And of course, if you haven't tried yet, if you haven't done that yet, do try some of the new products that are coming to the market. For example, you can order a burger which has blood proteins included into the structure, which is Impossible Burger, or maybe it's Beyond Meat. I don't remember which one is available in Riga, but it's definitely in the beginnings cafe. It's on Volt as well. So during the quarantine, you can also do that remotely. And finally, a couple of thinking points, so to speak. So it's from our friends at Rethink X. It's always interesting to ponder which nutrients could be produced via biotechnology, and what would be, more importantly, what would be the strategy to market? How do you convince people to try them and to actually shift to this kind of diet, at least partially? And from our friends at the Good Food Institute Europe, the other kind of big challenge is how to treat the new type of food waste that we're going to get more of pretty soon, which is the residual biomass of microorganisms that appears from, for example, from precision fermentation. So this has to be repurposed in some way. And there are a number of ways to approach this, and entrepreneurial ideas in this sector are always welcome. So in general, I think that to work in this space, in the food space, is one of the most exciting things to do right now. because of the things that I mentioned before, and because of some other things that are changing, about which you will probably hear in the next lectures. But to do something today, I think it's always worth being informed about what could happen tomorrow or what's already happening right now. So if you have any questions, that's it for me. If you have any questions right now, we can also discuss. I don't know if we have any time, Alina.
Andrii, yeah, I believe we have some time because people are curious, and there are several questions for you in the chat.
Okay, let's see.
First question is, in which year will lab-grown meat be cost competitive with the farm-grown meat? Mass market, what do you think?
Thank you for the question, Toby. Nice to see you here. This is a very good one. Actually, I had a chart for the cultured meat cost curve, but at least for now, everything that you can find on the internet is based on anecdotal evidence. So there's little research into how it progressed in time. And the other reason is that the cost of this is very highly connected with the scale. So as you increase the scale, the costs drop dramatically. So it's, again, it's not just me, but it's hard for anyone to pin down the specific year when this could be adopted on a mass scale. What I can cite here is, for example, the people at Rethink think tank, again, who have looked into this in very fine detail, and their estimate is that by 2030, a huge chunk of the cattle market is going to be bankrupt because people will shift en masse to cultured meat and precision fermentation. You can treat this as with a grain of salt, of course, because it's always in the nature of predictions that they usually don't happen word for word, but this is one of the kind of anchor points that you can consider. Please talk about the raw materials necessary for the biotech. Where is the carbon for biotech coming from? This is another very good question. Thanks, Raitis. So there are a number of carbon sources that are being used right now. So if we start from the basics, the easiest ones are so basically a mix of nutrients like sugars and some other micro elements. But you can also go bananas. You can try raising microorganisms that produce food proteins on almost any carbon source that you like, exactly because you can program those organisms to eat almost any type of organic matter that we can think of, or maybe even inorganic matter. Like, for example, there are bacteria that can use plastics like PET for their carbon source, which is an interesting pathway. On a more practical note, I could mention the Solar Food startup in Finland, who are building a platform which involves microbes that have been engineered to use CO2 as the main carbon source. So you basically, if you combine that with, let's say, direct carbon capture, you can have a food production system which sucks carbon out of the air and produces nutrients using solar power and carbon. So it sounds a little bit too much like a tree, but in this case, this food system can produce any type of protein or other nutrient that you can think of. And they've been active for a number of years. It's interesting when they get out of stealth mode, what kind of impact this will have. But this is also something that's happening right now. Again, since this is a question from Biorefik, I can also mention then that you can use waste streams. So let's say industrial or agrarian waste streams to produce new food if you enable the organisms that you are using to digest these types of waste streams. And I think this is exactly what awesome people at Biorefik are doing right now. Is there any waste left after biotech production? Yes, there is. As with any production, it's I mean, it's not perfect. It's not a silver bullet, at least in the format exists right now. Alina, if I'm over time, just cut me at any moment, right?
I'm just
like blabbing away, but I'm not taking time. I'm not sure how long can I go.
It's okay, because I'm just curious, because questions keep coming, and you probably made everyone very curious about the biotech trends. But if you're okay, maybe we can stop here. And Andrii, if you have some time, maybe you can also answer in chat or.
Yes, sure. I don't promise to do it right away, but I will try to answer the rest of the questions in the chat in the meantime. Yeah.
It would be very, 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 very nice of you. Thank you so much. And yeah, in order to continue to stick a bit more on the schedule, I'm very happy to see that Katarzyna, our special guest, I would say, from Warsaw University, is also here and is ready to take the floor with the presentation and getting more deep into SDG 12 and our today's challenge. So yeah, after this view in the future, Katarzyna, hi.
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you so much for this inconvenience. But we see that the changes in a time make some trouble. Yeah, but anyway, thank you for the invitation. Maybe I will share my presentation with you. So can you see that?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. Okay, I will just make it smaller. Yes, so I will start with some short introduction of myself. So my name is Katarzyna Świątek. I'm the assistant professor at Warsaw University of Life Sciences at the Faculty of Human Nutrition. I'm the food expert, and I'm specialized in the field of functional food, sensory evaluation. I'm the panel expert in an accredited sensory lab. And I'm also the specialist in the new product development. I'm the author and co-author of implementing several new food products formulas on the Polish and European market. I also the international academic teacher, a member of the Polish Society of Nutritional Sciences and Polish Celiac Society. And I was also the Polish representative on the working group of the European Commission, DG Sanko. Nowadays it's called DG Sante. And also, CMDV, the European Medicine Agency, that is maybe better known now because of the authorization of the vaccines for COVID-19. And I also the promoter of the healthy lifestyle and also functional food products development. But today I'm here to share with you some information about the SDG 12, about responsible production and consumption. As it was presented before, as I think it, you already mentioned about the sustainable development goals. Yes, so we've got like 17 of them that was agreed by 193 countries. And the sustainable development goals was agreed, to have a sustainable world for everybody and the sustainable future for everybody. But today we would like to concentrate on the SDG 12, that it's about responsible consumption and production. So Why we are speaking more about this responsible consumption production is that very often, to get some motivation to do something, many things should happen, and there should be some kind of reason, to make some action. And I think that also, this pandemic situation, this current crisis, yes, it's a huge opportunity, for us to profound this systematic shift to a more sustainable economy that works for both people and the planet. Because I think that before, nobody take care so much, on those kind of aspects of our life, and some kind of crisis situation really show us, that there are some kind of needs like that, yeah, and that shows also us that the human have unlimited needs, yeah, but the planet has limited capacity to satisfy them, and those limits must be reflected in our consumption and production patterns. And the sustainable consumption and production is about doing more and doing better with less. Yes, so it means that it's good if we take care much for everybody, for the environment, and produce less problems, less waste, and we can find here a lot of definition, that describe this word. But it's generally about decoupling economic growth from environmental degradation, increasing resource efficiency, and promoting sustainable lifestyles. And when we are speaking about the sustainable development goals, we are speaking about efficient use of natural resources. So it's really important, that we really know how to use them in a proper way. About cutting food and other waste, because there is so much data, that confirms that we exactly do not know how to use a food, and we generate, too much waste. Yeah, that in the same time, for example, in developed countries, we are wasting so much food, and in not developed one, they really do not have nothing, to eat. Yeah, and also it's very important also, to have this quality life. So we have to focus on responsible management of chemicals. So it should be also quite strong policy, to manage that. And also another thing that sometimes I think that we do not care about sustainable public procurement, because I think that sometimes really even didn't know, how they manage that. And another very important thing is that the companies have to adopt more sustainable practices. Of course, we've got a lot of very good examples, of the companies that adopt sustainable practices, and they made it very well, and they try to also and give these good examples and share it with other, but it's still not enough. Yeah. So these are also this SDG 12 targets that are speaking, what we wanted to achieve in 10 years, in nearly 20 years. So these are 8 targets. So all of them are mentioned here about the reduction, reducing waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse, encourage companies, especially large and transitional companies, to adapt sustainable practices, promote public procurement practices that I mentioned. And I think that also very important one, to ensure that people everywhere have the relevant information and awareness for sustainable development and lifestyles in harmony with nature. Because I think that very often, here is this misunderstanding and the lack of the information that people maybe they would like to be more sustainable, but they really sometimes don't understand what does it mean and how they can behave, you know, to follow these rules. But today I gave, you know, this short introduction, you know, to SDG 12, but I would like to more explain it on the example of the food product development. So I'd like to tell you what kind of action on this sustainable consumption and production producers should take. So when we are speaking about NPD process, about new product development, we know that it can be divided into a few steps. Different companies from their practice, but also, you know, from different kind of literature, we can see, you know, that divided into different steps. But what has happened usually and how it works and how it should work is when we divide it into idea selection, perfecting the idea, feasibility study, and product development, and then large-scale production of our product. And then we are finishing with the launching, but it's not the finish, because what is very important when we launch the product is that we draw the conclusion. So it means that we can still come back, you know, to our ideation, and we can change something because we know what our customers are thinking about their product, yeah, and maybe our product needs some changes. And during this NPD process, there are a few actions that we should focus on. So one very important is that we should focus on the impacts of consumption and production processes on people and nature. What does it mean? It is that just from the beginning of our NPD process, we have to really clear think about what will be the impact, you know, of our product, our service, our process on the people and on the nature. Yeah, so if we didn't think about that at the beginning, it doesn't have sense, you know, on the other step, because from the beginning, it should be one of the things that should be in our memory and in our plan, you know, for the NPD product. Yeah. So that's very, very important from the beginning. Another one action that I think that's also very important, we should focus on identifying sustainable levels of consumption and production, and also very important on the consumption behavior of individual consumers. What does it mean? Generally, when we are creating new products, at the beginning, when we are thinking about this idea, about this product, yes, our service or whatever, we have to think especially about the consumer, yes, to who we dedicate our product, what kind of problems we want to solve, what kind of who is our customer, if they've got any problem, or maybe there is something that he really needs, what is missing in his life. So by knowing a lot of things about our customer, we are able, you know, to dedicate the product that will be dedicated especially, you know, for this group of the consumers. We, in the design thinking, we are speaking about the persona. So we have to describe very well, you know, this persona. And we have to also have a look, for example, if this person have any troubles, any problems, if there are some healthy aspects, because what is very important is to know that nowadays we've got a very big problem with malnutrition. And even if we've got very well developed countries, this malnutrition occurs even in the people that are overweight, they are obese, they are eating a lot, but they are not eating nutritious products. Yeah, so the product that they are eating, they are malnutrients. So finally, they are obese, but still, with the specific ingredients that should be necessary, to that gives possibility, for their body to be healthy. Yeah. So this is one thing, that they are malnutrients in the developed countries, and there is also malnutrition problem in the not developed countries because of a lack of the nutrient products. Yeah. So if we know a lot about our persona, about our consumers, it's easier, to dedicate for them the product. And if we are thinking, to make this product sustainable, it also gives us possibility, to address better on this product to the consumer. Another things, when we're going further with the NPD process, it's an action that focusing on the producer and the designing of the product, whole production process. Because when we already know, for example, what will be this product, when we know to who we're gonna dedicate this product, that by this product we're gonna solve somebody problems, we have to then remember how we're gonna create it, how we're gonna produce it, if this production will be sustainable, how we gonna receive the raw materials, how we gonna distribute it. So there is like a lot of things that we have to think about. If there will be any waste during the production, what we're gonna do with this waste, and so on and so on. Another very important thing, is that the producers generally should pay more attention, on the production and supply chain. Yeah, so they have to remember about the sustainable management of natural resources, and about the reduction of the food waste and losses. And also another aspect that should be more clear, for the producers is the transparency. Yeah, so if they know more about the process, about the supply chain, and if it's more sustainable, they are more able, to share this information with the customer. And the customer, especially that one that is more conscious consumers, yes, that they really take care about what they are buying, what they are using, how it's produced. They really take care about that kind of aspects. Yes, so they will choose the company based on this transparency. Yes, based on information that they receive from the producers. And another things that we have to focus on, if we are speaking generally about sustainable consumption and production, is a marketing and promotion of sustainable consumption and lifestyle. What does it mean? Generally, when we are creating a product, and we wanted that this product will be sustainable, and the whole process. Nobody else than we will understand us very well and will take some action, to promote it. Yeah. So the person that is responsible for that is a producer. So when we are creating new product, and especially innovative one, it's very important that when we are launching this product, we are also start with a huge education. So we have to inform consumers what is this product, why it is very important for us, how we produce it, what is the impact of this product, on environment. If this product has high quality, and this is the role of the producers. Yes, so we have to take this action, and we have to in the same time when we are launching the product, and even before, start the education of our customers. What is another things that I have to mention here also is about the ethic of the producers, because they have to also remember that they have to concentrate on putting on the market less but high quality products than more and low quality products. And they have to also educate people on that aspect. Yes, because very often what it's one of the most important things, in the consumer decision is the price. So when we educate the people that to have a reasonable product with a high quality, we are not able, to pay a very small amount of the money that it costs. Yeah, it costs because we made it in this way to guarantee the highest quality, to guarantee that it's sustainable. So it should cost more than normally. Yeah, so it's a lot of work to do, by the producers, to understand that and to change, also their way of thinking, and also the way how they're gonna inform about that their customers. So it's really difficult thing, but I think that this is the time that we have to really reduce amount of the food that we are buying, and I give the floor, for the products with the highest quality, and to educate people that they don't have to eat so much things, that they can, minimize it, but we have to educate them, how to make this healthy decision. Okay, and that education also would give us another solution, that people didn't waste so much food. Yeah, because they will know that less is better, that the less will be better, for their health if they are choosing really good quality products, and that there will be no much pollution and also waste of the products. And another thing that I would like to focus on is on how policy tools can promote sustainable consumption and production. Because producers can do what they can. So it means if they have some motivation also from the government, or if they've got some rules, they're gonna work according to these rules. Yeah, if there is now some strict rules, they didn't follow them. Yeah, so it's very, very important, that also there is some strong collaboration between the companies and the government, that they are transparent rules, and that there is also the same goal, and the government and the producers, they see those goals in the same way. Yeah. And at the end, I would like to mention about another one aspect is how to scale up existing good practices so that they are central to achieving food, water, and energy security in the future. What does it mean? It's if we really have some good practices, we have to create some kind of platform, to share these good experiences, so everybody will be able, to make this innovation steps faster. Yeah, but if everybody, will only leave it, for themselves, we will didn't make so huge development in a short time. Yeah, so this is very important, to share and to scale up existing good practices. Yeah, to secure our environment. Yes, to make our world sustainable. So thank you very much, for your attention, and I open for your question if you have some.
Yeah, thank you, Katarzyna. If you have any questions, please either put in the chat or you can also ask in person. But meanwhile, I have a question. Actually, if we talk about the Polish market or some good examples, it is like what practical advice would you give the early startup who is in food production?
I think that generally, this good practices, they start with the startups. So I think that generally, this is the motivation also, for the big companies that already the small companies start to already do it. Yes, so I think that it's a very good example, because usually I think that they are the people that with some kind of passion, with some kind of idea, and they didn't see any so much, they didn't take so much risk, for example, like it is with the bigger players. Yeah, so I think that it's easier now for them to go in this direction with the sustainable goals. And we also see it, from the new product development, that it started like this, that at the beginning, this radical innovation came from startups, yes, from small companies. And then, when they made some effort, they make something new, the big players start to, follow it. And we've got then incremental innovation only. But this is a huge motivation, I think, for the big players, the small companies that already start with the sustainability. And of course, it's very important, start with small steps. It's of course, it's rather impossible, to make everything from the beginning, but I think that by making, and taking small steps, we are able, to go farther and to give some good examples, but also, to show the people that it's able, we are able to do and to manage that. Yeah.
But could you please share, maybe you know some good examples, like the startup?
Yes, for example, we've got one of the Polish company, it's Biotrem, is the company that is producing packaging. They produce plates and different kind of plates, like some kind of alternative, for the plastic one. And they use only the old brain. So it's like some kind of waste of during the flour production. And this, they produce it quite a big amount in the mills, and normally the mills doesn't know what to do with that. And actually the co-founder of this company, from their parents, they know this technology because they were working in a mill. And finally, he trying, to do some good use, from this waste. And then, they start to produce these plates, from the old brain. Yeah. And I think, and they use, this is just only one ingredient, that they are using for this production. So it's unique ingredient. They didn't add nothing. It's just the clue, this intellectual property is like the production process. Yeah, in this case. So I think that it's really, really a good example, for that kind of companies. But other examples, they are like companies that at the beginning, they start to produce their products based on the clean label. So they start to use that kind of ingredients, that are the most important, to create the product. And what started to be also more popular during the pandemic time, that they also focusing on raw materials that are produced nearby, the place where the production is, because also the pandemic time show us that the raw materials that we took, from companies from the distance, sometimes makes us some trouble, because we are not able, to manage the final product without, for example, this one secret ingredient, yes, that we are waiting, many months. So companies start, also, to have a look for what they've got in the neighborhood, and trying to look, for the companies that also are able, to give them and offer them raw materials. We can see it also, in case of the United Kingdom. Also, for them, some kind of motivation is Brexit. So they also, put more attention when they are creating the products to have their raw materials from the area, yeah, from United Kingdom also. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I see that we do not have any questions in chat.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if we have some, we're
Okay.
going to the more ideation phase, and we will also have discussions, and we'll share this. So thanks a lot for your input and sharing this valuable information. So yeah, thanks a lot. We will be happy.
Thank you. Thank you one more time.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Enjoy your workshop, and I hope that it give you, some inspiration, yes, for for your further work.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Kristaps, then the floor is yours, and I believe that we are slowly into the active phase of the session.
Yeah. So I will make a share. 1 sec. So, do you see presentation? Yep.
Yes, all good.
Okay, so little bit. Sorry?
На семинар слушаю.
Семинар слушайте, хорошо. Cool. Yeah, Yuli, thank you that you close your mic. So, yeah, my name is Kristaps, and I'm a short introduction about myself. So I'm a product and brand designer in my core, and working with companies which are trying to shift to more sustainable approaches and adapt more circular tactics, and basically trying kind of change how they operating. And and one I would say more thing in which I very deeply involved is deep tech, and deep tech about the product quality control and waste recycling. These are kind of two areas which are very deeply to my heart, in my heart, and of course I'm very passionate about the SDGs. SDGs as a, I would say, good and very practical framework how we can speak to each other very similarly and understand each other and understand where the challenges there is. Today we will have two parts. One part I will a little bit give you some insights about circular economy, since I would say that this is one of the best tactics which we could adapt to, in reality, try to make impact and to come up with some kind of tangible changes. And the second part will be we will have fun, and we'll have some 20-30 minutes of workshops where we'll be able to kind of brainstorm about our challenges, about what we could do if we imagine that we are the people who could change something at this stage and at this moment. So yeah, if we are looking, and again, I want to highlight SDG 12, because I think that this is a very important thing which we can basically repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat again. And the things which I want to highlight in terms and related to circular economy is that if we are look on global priorities and this goal, then of course one big problem is how we can basically severe relationships between economical growth and degradation, which we basically are doing because we are rapidly destroying resources and using it too much. And of course, if we are looking on circular economy, that then one of the main parts and bases is that we should make more durable goods, more long-lasting products, and and the most important in this whole realm is that there is a big need that we should think more about not only how we making our products, but where is the end life, where we are kind of where will our product which we are creating or designing will end. And in that I want to ask to you all, take a pause, look around yourself, and I think that almost everything you see has been designed by someone, and each detail, your chair, your laptop, everything. And if we understand that almost everything is designed, and if we try to understand what the basis of design is, then design in a kind of very simplified way is to come up with idea how you can make this product or make more sustainable some kind of services and that kind of stuff, and how make more better experiences for all of us. So if we look on this infograph, then of course the main part is that we are in linear economy at this stage, and there is a very many initiatives, and basically many companies and NGOs try to kind of refine circular economy and find the best solutions how we in reality could transition from linear to circular economy. And of course it's under and very related to SDG 12 as well. So and what I want to highlight today is since we're talking about the food and the food systems, and we understand that your food is designed as well. So the open question, which everyone can think and maybe a little bit spend time to thinking about it, is that how we can basically make food and produce our food in the fashion that nature would thrive, not degrade. And this is an open question which I hope that we will open more deeply in workshop sessions. But till that, I want to highlight one thing as well. So if we talk about food, the main problem, of course, there's 1/3 which we are basically wasting by default. But what is really kind of thing which I want to highlight, that half of fruits and vegetables which we are producing, growing, we are wasting. And I think that when we have hunger And of course, for our kind of countries, Baltic states and Europe, it may be not so kind of very close and not so related to us. Yeah, there is a hunger. Yeah, there is many issues in whole world, but anyway, if we are just look on the numbers and we understand that 50% of fruits and vegetables are wasted, and as example, cacao fruit is 70% of all fruit is wasted. So imagine what we could do if we this 50% not just kind of put to disposal, but in reality would find a way how we could reuse, upcycle, or maybe even distribute in more efficient way that everyone could have a proper food and a proper meal. So with that, I want to highlight a few things which I think is very important to circular economy by itself, and it will be very important as well for our workshops. So one thing and one tactic, very simple and not simple in the same time. So upcycling. When we take and look on our waste, which we are generating by producing something, we basically can, and the technology, as Andrii mentioned and Katarzyna mentioned as well, there is technologies already out there which basically helping us to upcycle, to make more new materials, to make kind of new things from parts of food which we are wasting because it's kind of leftover or basically unusable for a specific product. The second part is biodiversity. In biodiversity, I think in the terms not just how rich is our nature and that kind of stuff, but when we are thinking about how nature is already designed the things which are growing more efficiently, more faster, more nutritional richer, then if we kind of taking this step back and look on these things and a little bit try to dive deep, what does it mean biodiversity, how we can use less water as example and feel about this part, then of course I think we would could have much better outcome in an impact sense. And the third one is ethical sourcing, and I think this is a very important part to highlight because our capitalism as a core is when the profits is the main target for everyone. But if we look on circular economy and if we highlight ethical sourcing, then basically what I want to highlight and just leave to wonder in your minds is that I think the right order now is kind of planet, people, and then profits, not otherwise, not in different order. And and this will in the next upcoming years will rise and rise and rise, and of course will be much hotter topic to discuss. And of course we all understand, and I think that most of everyone who is in this session understand that we have a big pollution problem in many categories, in many kind of ways, and when we designing and when we are trying to come up with new product or try to find a new solution for some kind of problem, we should don't forget that pollution isn't an option. And the third and the last one is think about end life. And I want to highlight this very importantly because we as a innovators or as a product developers or as a designers not always think about where it will end. And I think that now is the time where we can't kind of delete this part, and we should everyone think about where it will end. And if we talk about circular economy, then I would say that by design, when we look on food, there's a two main parts. One is food itself and product itself, and the second, of course, is packaging. And and here I see a big opportunity about where your product will end, because if you can upcycle, or if you can basically till the end control your product supply chain, you could open for yourself or for different companies many new business opportunities, and basically evolve in many verticals, because for designing product for nature, think about ingredients.
Yeah, so I think I'm not alone who just missed Kristaps at some point. Does someone else also have the connection problem? We do not see him. Kristaps?
Yeah, sorry. Zoom wanted to make an update in the middle of the presentation. So anyway, anyway, so fine. One sec. So okay, so short story. Basically, there is a two parts: ingredient selection and sourcing. When you think about your food and what impact it's leave to environment, and the second part is packaging. When you think about how you can reuse it, or what kind of materials you put in it, and do we can afterwards recycle this material. So again, if we look about linear and circular economy, then basically the one very simple differentiation is that we think dispose and think about what kind of value we can take from this waste. And this, I think, is very important to highlight, and basically to think about everyone, because if we can find waste as a resource and take waste as a resource, then we basically can enable many things to our businesses, kind of just from money side, and of course, if we talk about impact, there's a big advantages to switch to circular economy. So, and today's challenge is waste to value. And waste to value, I think, as I before mentioned, I think is this kind of gold mine. And if we can find a way how you could basically turn waste to value and sell it, or make new products and then afterwards sell it, then I think it's kind of the best business you could ever have. And if we look to our today's session, the fun part, which we will start basically now, will be in two stages. The first stage will be brainstorming. There will be 3 breakout rooms. One will be about production waste. The second one will be about retail waste. And the third one will be about HoReCa waste. HoReCa is cafes, restaurants, if you're not familiar with this slang. And if we basically look on these 3 areas where it's a big waste problems, so we try to find main sources of waste. And if we talk about the production, as example, juice makers are having a big amount of leftovers in the scraps and everything which basically left after all the juicing process. Scraps, of course. The second, for retail, if we talking, then there is of course big expired product wastage and damaged product wastage as well. And if we talk about HoReCa, then of course there is leftovers, and then there is expired products as well. But to jumpstart this brainstorming and kind of very simplify the task which we could do today and have fun with, is that if we look on this waste and we look on many uprising startups, then, as I mentioned before, there's many opportunities to make waste to value. An example from scraps, orange scraps, and from mango scraps, there's a few startups which are basically making alternatives for leather, and having great success in fashion industry. Or example, in retail, there is a few companies already, which one is a beer company who take from retail all the old bread and use it as an ingredient for brewing of beer. And then there is a HoReCa, where one kind as example is taking all the coffee leftovers. When after you make coffee, you have this brown kind of waste, and they doing as example is making kind of coal alternative when you need to have for your home in the winter time heating solution, or so. There's many things which basically each of us could come up with ideas, and the main thing, we will have breakout room 15 minutes. Before that, maybe you have questions. Yeah. Okay. So, Alina, maybe I can answer to questions, and then we can go to breakout rooms.
Yes, please. You have one question in the chat. And I would also, thanks, Raitas, for being with us. See you.